How do? Ah, right. You know, the French have a saying: "If I didn't see it, I couldn't have imagined it." I don't know if you've ever heard that saying before, but uh, one of my favourite times of my whole life was when I lived in Los Angeles, and it's a bit of a story to it. But I was down on my luck big time when I got this job, managing apartments, and boy, it was, maybe if I didn't need the job so much, I wouldn't have stuck to it, because you really couldn't make it up. The amount of characters, because I was the manager, people came to me, and oh boy, there was one day, this big guy who was well over 6 foot. I lived up on the second floor, and I was standing out on the balcony talking to somebody, and this tall guy came running up the steps of the balcony towards me, shouting over and over, repeating, man, my girlfriend just stabbed me. He was holding his side. I was running up from across the other corner of the forecourt, across the forecourt, up the steps. Man, my girlfriend just stabbed me, And when he got up and got level with me, he stopped, and I said, well, what do you want me to do about it? He goes, oh, okay, man. Turned down the stairs and ran back down again, like. I figure, like, if you could run up the stairs, I mean, I don't know, you couldn't really get involved in domestics either, because, like, they start off wanting to kill each other or do whatever to each other, but then you'd be the villain and you'd be in the middle. But that was classic example there. There was another guy in the other corner, on the second floor in the other corner. His name was Bill. Oh boy, and his girlfriend, man. Boy, the screams used to come from her, from the apartment. Her screaming, like. And I called the police. Then this guy, like, lucky enough, I got on okay with the guy. But I had called the police, And when he confronted me one time, I said, well, what do you want me to do about it, man? The woman's screaming her head off in there, And he, lucky enough, he just took that as but there's this one day, she seemed to be screaming louder than normal, as I ran to their door. I was thinking, because the O.J. Simpson thing had just been going on as well. And I ran to their door, hearing her screams coming out from the other side, like. And there was a screen first, opened that, and then there was I put my hand on the lock, was turning the lock, and as I was trying to push it through with my foot. I was in a probably bit of a panic, you know what I mean? Hearing to her screams, she really did sound like she's in trouble. But the door was locked, and really it was a flimsy door. It was made out of kind of ply, 2 sets of ply, but my foot, believe it or not, went right through the door, and because it was actually locked, and but then I heard the screaming stop, and then I heard him pounding up the hallway, coming straight from me. I'm thinking, I'm going to be the next one screaming, He was coming, and this guy was a big guy, man. He was a lot bigger than me, So, man, I was trying to get my foot out of the door, but I could hear him all the time pounding up the hallway and getting closer and closer. And lucky enough, I got my foot out at the last second, and I was backing up as he opened the door. I was backing up the balcony, pleading with him to calm down. I was going, Bill, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put my foot through your door. Man, I was worried what was happening there, Lucky enough, he did seem to like me, man. He'd saved me at 9 lives with that guy. But the cops have been out so many times, and there was other domestics going on. And then there was a woman down the other corner. You couldn't make it up, like. She was obsessed with me, and she said she used to have dreams about me, and she'd tell me what the dreams were, and she said, you know, how she chased you through a forest and all this. You were naked, like. And I said, I don't want to hear any more of that. Like, she said she used to have telepathic conversations with me, like, and but one morning, she knocked on my door at 5 o'clock in the morning, and she says, Brian, why don't you just get downstairs right now and just let's get it over with. I said, get what over with? I said, can you just get away from my door, please? But my favourite one was a guy called Smokey. He lived down in the other corner underneath me, in that corner. And, oh man, every time he had a row with his girlfriend, she used to throw handfuls of his clothes out all over the green. And you'd hear her shouting and screaming, like, you know, mostly about other women, sorry. And so I came down one evening, there was Smokey's clothes were all over the green again. And as I got down there, Smokey standing outside the front door with his hands on his hips going like this, man. And Smokey's clothes out, scattered all over the grass, you know. Had bundles of his clothes like. And he's in dismay at looking at his clothes out in the green again, usual. I said, another row, Smokey? He says, yeah, Brian, I'm getting tired of this, man. Well, I said, well, why don't you bring the wardrobe outside, Smokey? They seem to be out here more than they're inside anyway. That way she won't have as far to throw them, you know. But, you know, I mean, if it wasn't bad enough then, I used to do maintenance, but, you know, well, that story I'll do for another time, but there was if it wasn't bad enough dealing with the people in our apartment, you had to deal with the people next door as well. There was a guy called Kevin lived next door, you know, he's from Boston, in the block next door, and all that separated us was a big one of those big metal screen fences. That's all, you know, and you could see right as their forecourt, and he'd always he'd come by my window, and might be first thing in the morning, I'd be reading the Bible, so he's, you know, so he'd call me Gaudy Boy. He always called me how you doing, Gaudy Boy? But you know, I did get friendly with the guy. He was from Boston and he had a nice accent, you know, but he was, I don't know, he was all front, you know. He had to have an image, you know, and he just found it very hard to be himself, like, do you know what I mean? But he used to go on these. He made great coffee for a start, though, and he used to like Northern Exposure, which I used to watch that as well. We just, you know. But then he'd start on these kind of rants about, he says, I've got these friends, you know, he likes to sit at home and count doorknobs. Do I, as a friend, do that, or do I tell us, hey, there's more out there, man, you know, like, you like the birds and the trees? Yeah, it's coming, yeah. He says, take a hammer, for instance, you know. This is one of the examples, but take a hammer, for instance. All the things you can do with a hammer. You can hang hammer tacks in the carpet. You can break ice cubes. You can stop a car rolling down a hill. I said, hang on a second. I'm with you with the tacks and the ice cubes, Kevin. But then he used to you know, I mean, he used to chuck me out of his apartment so many times. He asked me to come in one day. He says, because he had some ravioli left over. Hey, Gaudy Boy, you want some ravioli? He says, yeah. So I went in, and it must have been a few days old because it was really dry. So I was taking a mouthful of it, and it was really dry in my throat, and I was like gasping for breath. Got stuck in my throat, like. So I was coughing, and bits of it was coming up on his carpet, like, and he was going nuts. So he chucked me out of his apartment, you know. But he said to me one time, he was asking me, do you want me to, do you want to come to Vegas? See, he said he had a friend that was a boxer, and he had a fight coming up in Vegas. And he says, as a matter of fact, he says, just to save money, we'll share the same hotel room, you know, to save money. I says, Kevin, man, it's hard enough sharing the same neighbourhood with you, man. Never mind sharing the same hotel room. But he was always asking me to come up to go up to Hollywood with him. He had this big friend called Roger, and they used to go off to Hollywood, up to nightclubs up there and whatever else. They were big guys. Kevin was a big guy. Roger was really big guy, naturally big. And so I knew it was a bad bad idea going with him. Like, I had this gut feeling, like. But I thought, yeah. So anyway, off we went, and we weren't gone far before it was confirmed, because he was going on to me about Gaudy Boy and this and Gaudy Boy that and Gaudy Boy the other in the back, and I was just thinking, and Roger was, so I wasn't saying anything. I thought, oh yeah, okay, I'll buy my time, Kevin. So went off up anyway, and he was giving me stick the whole way up, like, and then in the nightclub, I couldn't believe it, man. There was these waitresses, obviously Hollywood, man. It was, some place, like, you know what I mean? It's all the beautiful people from around the world up there, like, Kevin was a big fish down where we lived, but man, he didn't stand out much in Hollywood, like, you know what I mean? And but I couldn't believe it. I was kind of standing behind him, and he was like, the waitresses, he'd go to the waitresses, hello gorgeous, and if they didn't respond with a smile or a little nod of approval, then he would turn in this, he would just hurl abuse after them, like, you know what I mean, because they hadn't appeased his little ego or whatever it was. And I just couldn't believe it, and I felt sorry for them. It was like a booby trap for these waitresses to come along just doing a job, like, and I was astonished the way he was acting, like, you know what I mean. So anyway, came time to go home, and I was in the back seat, and I knew I got on okay with Roger. I knew Roger wouldn't stop the car or anything, so I says, Kevin, I understand you. He says, what? He's in the front seat, and Roger's driving. What? I says, yeah, I understand you. Yeah. I says, because behind that rugged exterior, Kevin, behind that rugged exterior, there's a little boy. There's a little boy inside that needs love and attention. I said, I seen you with the waitresses up there. They didn't give you the little nod of approval and a little bit of attention, how you reacted. I said, we've all got that little boy inside, Kevin. Isn't that right, Roger? Roger goes, that's right, man. That's right, man. And Kevin's wriggling in the front seat with his hands over his ears, screaming at me to shut up. Shut up! He couldn't handle, like, But anyway, the time came. I mean, I couldn't believe he was 53. I mean, he had a goatee, shorts, big pair of boots on. I don't know, yet to see it. But especially the way he was acting, like, you know what I mean? And so, all right. But anyway, the time did come when I thought I needed to put a bit of distance between me and Kevin. There was one night that he knocked on my door, like, it was getting a bit late, and he says, hey, Gaudy Boy, you want to come around and meet my new girlfriend? I says, yeah, I'll come around and meet her, yeah. So I went round, and he had like a breakfast bar, and a counter where you in the kitchen. I was sitting the other side, and he was in the kitchen making Long Island iced tea, and his girlfriend was sitting one side, and we were having chatting, and he was shaking the Long Island iced teas a bit more than you need shaking, and I says to his girlfriend, he's a bit angry tonight, isn't he? She says, yeah, I thought that. And just as I said that, he went and punched me in the face, man, and I just leaned back enough the other side of the breakfast bar for him to miss me. I said, whoa, what was that about, man? And then he went running by me, straight to the front door, slams his front door, and behind the front door was two hatchets. One had two heads on, the other one head. But he grabbed the one with one head on it, and he had it held halfway through on the handle, and he's heading back to me on the seat, like, with this hatchet held, shoulder high, heading straight for me. Of course, man, it's surreal. I just said, God, help me here, please. And he just thrust it into my neck, and he held it firmly in my neck, the hatchet, like. And I thought, whoa, man, I could feel the blade touching me there on the chin, on the bone of my chin as well. And then there was nothing. I was just held motionless for a few seconds. When my mind was come to terms with what was happening, And a few seconds went by where nothing was said, and then he started to twist it up and down. You could hear the bristles. And I went to go, and I was holding my, because I could feel the metal blade right there, man. So like, ooh, you know, the density and the texture of a metal blade on your chin, like all of a sudden. And I went to say something, and Kevin says, "No, you better let me do the talking." I says, "Yeah, okay, talk away, Kevin. Get it off your chest. I haven't got a lot to say anyway," with the hatchet held to my neck. But oh, he was. I didn't see him much of him after that. Like, but he. I mean, Kevin was a law unto himself. He used to go around vacuuming his apartment completely naked, you know, and with the front door wide open, you know, and. But that seems to be, I mean, I don't know how many times I see naked people walking on Sunset Boulevard, you know. It seems to be an LA thing. It must be the heat, like, or something. But I was doing maintenance with a famous actor, you know. I had a bit of a little issue with a driving license, and this famous actor, he was driving me around for a while. And we went to do this maintenance, work on this maintenance in this apartment, and we knocked on the door, and the next thing, this big fat white woman, anemic white woman, came to the door with completely naked, like, and with this shock, man, it was just unreal. The black apartment behind her, and it's just, oh wow. So I said to her, I said, "Do you mind putting some clothes on?" And that must have insulted her, because she slammed the door. And myself and this guy just looked at each other in disbelief, shaking our heads. So the next thing, she came back to the door with clothes on this time, and there's 2 or 3 stacks of old pizza boxes, in 3 stacks from floor to ceiling, you know. So there was mental issues there, you know, but there was never a dull moment. No dull moment. I used to drive a limousine there in LA too. I'll do a video on that next. And I told a story about Tony Curtis the last time. I left out the best part. Was driving the limousine. I was driving Tony a few times. He used to drive with his wife as well. And there was one time we were going to some award ceremony up in Hollywood or somewhere, man, you know. But I mean, I lived in a little village called El Segundo. It was so quiet. There's only 2 or 3 little cafes and what have you, a few bars and this. But it was so pleasant and calm. But then you'd leave that village and go to this razzmatazz and the red carpets and people screaming and roaring. That was what happened with Tony. He was driving into this award ceremony, and there was red carpet, everything. And as we drove round, Tony told me to stop the limousine. He's in the back seat, and he says, "Now listen." And there's 2 women, I don't know what you call them, ushers or whatever, up ahead, and they're like kind of waving me ahead. But Tony says, wait a minute. He says, "Now what I want you to do is drive really slowly up to the front, as slow as you possibly can." And he says, "Don't stop till I give you the tap shoulder." And that's how it's going to work. Is that okay? I says, "Yeah, sure, Tony. I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do, pal." So of course I'm driving up way too slow for these women, and they're going becking me on, like, you know what I mean? And then I'm nearly going past them, and then I'm not stopping, and then they're banging the windscreen. And then so I finally did come to a standstill, and he says, I'll tap you on the shoulder when you can get out and open the door." And then by this stage, he knew what he was doing. The crowd were in a frenzy, because they couldn't see who was getting out of the car, and they were like, who is it? "Now go." So I get out of the car and open the door, and then Tony jumps out, arms stretched out, goes, "Maestro." And you could not have a better entrance. There were like 3 or 4 heads above each other, on each other's shoulders, with cameras clicking, you know. But that night, I don't know how many cars was in the car park. I don't know. Wouldn't exaggerate to say a couple of 100 limousines, you know. And of course, red carpet and everything else. And of course, you can have a rough night the night before. You might have been up till 4 o'clock the night before, and I don't know. You're always looking to get a little bit of a nap, to power nap or whatever. So I pull in this car park, and this guy with broken English on the tannoy, and a crackly tannoy. I says, I'm never going to know what that guy's going to say. But I laid back in my seat as I dozed off, and the next time I woke, man, I don't know what time it was, in the middle of the night, like, man. But there was no messages, there's no calls, nothing. And of course I went back up, and the guy was, oh man, the bouncer, he read me the riot act about Tony having to get a yellow cab home, you know. But the wife's handbag was still in the car, so he didn't even call the base to complain about me. I just drove back, I kept the handbag, dropped it back up to the complex the next day. There's a security gate at the front, dropped it there and says, look, this is Mrs. Curtis's handbag, could you get it to her? And they did, obviously. But I didn't hear a word about it. Like, that meant he didn't complain or nothing, you know. But yeah, I'll do the limousine next, so thanks.